Welcome to the Phoenix Suns solar panel broadcast live here on YouTube. If you're watching
Live.
YouTube, very early in the morning in Arizona, not so early where I am at. But my name is Tim Tompkins. Joining us, as always, Mister. Let's go with Dave King.
Hey.
You always go with Dave. You hurt my feelings.
And of course, the star of the show, the real reason why anybody tunes in and gives us any attention at all, Mr. Greg Esposito. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, hoy, everybody.
Very true.
I don't know about that.
He's on every fucking podcast in the past week, too, so people have heard him everywhere. This is the incredibly popular, very famous mumbler Espo.
Dude, seriously,
true.
you were on like every single Suns podcast in the last week and a half. It was quite impressive.
The timeline, the 5 seconds or less, or 5 minutes or less, locked on, yeah. I think that's all that's left, right? Except for Fanning the Flames, which those guys
Fanning
don't invite me
Suns
anywhere.
Report. Yeah.
And Suns Report. I haven't met those guys yet, so.
That was going to be our Wednesday night party, but I ended up doing a happy hour with my girls instead. My Skype happy hour. Yeah. Or not Skype, but FaceTime happy hour with my girls instead, and you guys lost.
I think that's actually probably better for everybody. So
it was better for me.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm making the rounds. I figure, you know what, everybody deserves a little Espo, so I'll share little pieces of me around.
A little Espo in your life.
Oh yeah. Just because we have to social distance doesn't mean I can't be social. So.
And so I do want to take a minute to thank a listener, one of our supporters, Sarah Combs. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate
We have a female supporter.
We do. A whopping one. And
that
so
means one female listener, we've broken through, guys, finally.
The listener count is incredibly rising.
So if you want to support the show, you feel like you get something out of it, there's a support the show button on YouTube. It's in the notes below. If you're listening to the podcast, just open up the show notes. That is there. So thank you guys, all of you that support the show. We really do appreciate you. But getting to the Suns. So Booker this week was named Special Olympics Global Ambassador. I did have an opportunity earlier in the year to volunteer as well for the Special Olympics. And I can't tell you how incredible of an experience that is. And it's really awesome Devin Booker is doing that. Obviously, his 17-year-old sister influenced part of this, but what he is going to get out of this, and of course, what all the athletes for the Special Olympics are going to get out of this is just truly incredible stuff.
Yeah, and Devin's always been great in this realm. I mean, obviously his sister has special needs, so he's very familiar with it. But there's a young female fan named Jenna that's always at games, who's also special needs, and Devin befriended her the second he came to the Valley. Jenna is actually one of my favorite fans that I got to know in my time there too, and he's just the way he interacted with her. It does not surprise me that this is something that he wants to do and is passionate about, and I'm glad to see that he gets such a great opportunity to do that.
Yeah, Jenna's very cool. We say hi every day, every time before the game starts, watching the players warm up. She's a cool kid.
Yeah.
So we do got a comment by somebody watching on the YouTube chat right now, and I have thought this before, so I want to pose it to you guys as well. All right. So Kurt, he says, I have a question. Is it possible for the team to be renamed the Arizona Suns? Just a thought, Liz, timing in there as well. So I guess we have two female listeners. Shout out to Liz. Growing up in Tucson, I used to kind of think the same thing.
Did you say timing in there?
What?
When you said Liz, did you say timing in there?
I don't think so.
Okay. Anyways, continue.
And he said Liz was timing in.
Okay.
No.
Just wondering. Sorry. Now, look. Okay. I get.
Oh, Liz is timing in.
I get that people wonder about this, but hell no, we're never going to make it the Arizona Suns. No, it's the one team left that has Phoenix in their name. It's a 50-plus year tradition. If you can't root for a team because it says Phoenix in the name, even though you live elsewhere in the state, I'm sorry, but no, we've seen too many of these teams acquiesce to that, and the Suns are not going to be one of them. I will lose my mind if they ever go that route. I thought if they had left downtown, there may have been a slight possibility they considered it, but they're the one team that'll likely play in downtown for the next decade or two at least. The Diamondbacks I have a feeling, are likely eventually going to move. So they'll be the one true team in downtown Phoenix. I don't want to see them change the name. There's too much history. No. They are the Phoenix Suns. They are not the Arizona Suns, and it needs to remain that way. It's not we are AZ, it's we are PHX, damn it. So.
That's true. It was okay for the Phoenix Cardinals to rename themselves the Arizona Cardinals to get more appeal. And then you've got the Coyotes. What are they right now anyway?
They're the Arizona Coyotes. But look.
That's what I thought. Yeah, they switched too, but they didn't have the history that the Phoenix Suns do. So I agree with Greg that they should say the Phoenix Suns because that's what they really are. And it's weird when a team changes like that after all those years. So I think even though they really are an entire Arizona team, I don't think they should change.
Well, look, the difference here, too, is the Coyotes played in downtown Phoenix and moved to Glendale. They felt like they had to change the name because Glendale footed the bill for that arena, and they had another city's name in their name. And then the Cardinals never played in Phoenix. They played in Tempe, and now they play in Glendale. So I totally get changing the name. But the Suns have always, and from what it seems, will always play in Phoenix. So changing the name would just be to acquiesce or to people outside of the Phoenix area, and I just don't see why you need to do that. There's a tradition there, so let's just keep it the way it is. Tim, would you like to time in?
Yeah, time in. Seriously, Tim. Did we catch you at the wrong time? Where'd he go? He left. Tim left the room.
Okay, well,
all right. Well, he's not going to time in right now. So
I guess we're not supposed to do that anymore. I guess I'm going to leave the wording alone.
Is he pissed?
I don't know. We'll find out shortly. But yeah, changing the name to Arizona, I don't see the benefit. I don't think you're going to sell more merchandise that way. You're going to kind of stick your thumb at the tradition or thumb your nose, at the tradition that is the Phoenix Suns. You're going to change jerseys that say Phoenix to have Arizona on them. It just seems weird to me. It almost feels dirty to me to think of that. Like, it's just wrong in so many ways, and I apologize.
This out, aren't you?
Well, I have to. Our host isn't here, so what would you like me to do? We could sit in silence if you'd like.
We can move on.
I don't have fine.
I have the show notes. The next item up for bids is the 2K tournament.
I will bid $1 on that, Bob.
I actually tuned in on ESPN2 the other night to watch the last few minutes of the 2K game between DeAndre Ayton and Trae Young. I don't usually catch all those. I don't love watching those guys playing on the screen and while the players are just mumbling and stuff. I don't love that. But it's something to do. Right now, I much preferred listening to John Bloom actually call it like a real game on a radio setting. But it was good to do, and Ayton did beat Trae Young. So now DeAndre Ayton, and while Devin Booker also beat Rui Hachimura. So I mean, it was only 16 points, but it sounded like through Twitter anyway, it sounded like it was so bad it was much much wider spread than that. And so it looks like DeAndre Ayton and Devin Booker are both in the semifinals against two Clippers. The Clippers are Montrezl Harrell and Patrick Beverley. So can you imagine? Those two seem like the two most competitive guys sometimes on the Clippers that aren't stars. And so you got the two Sun stars against the two supporting players on the Clippers, and we'll see what happens.
Well,
what do you think, Greg?
Yeah. I mean, it's Phoenix Suns players in a semifinal. I imagine somehow virtual refs will screw somebody over, or some bizarre, three-quarter court shot will wind up winning a game in this. Or it would seem quite fitting that the Suns' first championship would come virtually during a quarantine in a video game. That might actually be the way this plays out, is that one of these guys does actually win, and it's the closest thing we get to a real title.
The Suns do have have a lot of minor championships. The Rattlers have won. The Mercury have won. Lots of different teams have won local championships, and so we might as well have a 2K championship. Why not?
What do
you think, Tim?
I just want to know if one of them is actually going to play as the Suns.
Well, look, Ayton has to in one of his final two games, because Ayton has the Suns as one of his 8 teams he could play with, I believe. So I think he has to play with them in one of the final 2 games, and I really hope it's in the finals against Booker, because how great would it be if a digital Booker beat actual Devin Booker?
Actually, it's not going to happen, though. I mean, Booker even clarified, like when he joked last weekend about whether he should play with the who was it? It was Michael Porter Jr. with the Nuggets. They were joking before their matchup, going, "Hey," he said, why don't we play with our own teams?" And Booker's like, no. And it's not because he doesn't like the Suns. I mean, yes, he doesn't. The Suns are not going to be as good, but also it's because he said they jacked up his player in 2K, so he doesn't make as many shots as he's gonna in real life and stuff like that. So he doesn't like how they set up his player, so they don't want to use him. He doesn't want to use that player in 2K. So I can totally see why you wouldn't want to. That would be hilarious if Ayton had to play with the Suns against Booker, and Booker kicked his ass with a different team.
We'll see. I mean, I really hope we get that finals of Booker and Ayton, because it may be the first time I find this truly entertaining, because you have to imagine, since Ayton and Booker are comfortable with each other and teammates, that they probably would trash talk a little more than other guys have in this tournament, because you're not worried that you're going to say something to a guy you're going to have to play or that you don't really know. There's got to be a comfort level, right? So something's going to slip where they trash talk each other. My guess is Booker's probably going to more trash talk Ayton than the other way around. But I hope for that finals, because I actually think there's the outside chance it becomes quite entertaining just for the commentary.
Have you been following along, Tim?
Yeah, I watched one of the games. I mean, it just felt like pretty quarantine-ish, sitting there watching.
Yeah. Some guy texted me. He's like, "Dude, I'm watching drone racing. This sucks."
Yeah, that's certainly a thing. That's about what they got going on right now.
What do you guys think about the horse tournament? You think that'll be any better than the video game stuff?
Dude, well, my thing about that is I don't know. Well, for one, you have to have the cameras set up, right? So they're like, quarantine this, blah blah blah. Well, there's got to be camera crew of some kind that's in there. So as long as you aren't really going to respect the 6-foot social distancing, just put them in the same area. And then obviously with horse, you have to mark where you made the shot from. So I don't know how they're going to do that in a way that would be one, accurate, but for two, all that interesting. Although I am really excited, there is some WNBA presence in it, and also I think it's really cool that Paul Pierce is going to be competing too.
Yeah, I think it would be hilarious.
There's not going to be any dunk parts then.
Yeah, I think it would be hilarious if if they don't actually have professional cameras and they basically have to shoot using multiple phones or webcams around these people's personal gyms. So this whole thing's been the great equalizer, right? We've been doing this for 3 years this way, and now the whole world, late night shows, sports, everybody has to film their crap this way. So
yeah, man. So the range on the late night shows is interesting. Like, again, we're assuming the social distancing is being honored. I'm just making some assumptions. Like Jimmy Fallon just simply has his wife with a handheld camera doing their videos, and he's not even dressing up or anything like that. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got Stephen Colbert, who does look like he has a professional setup with all the right lighting and everything. But I don't know who's running it or anything like that, but it does look like he's got it all set up professionally in his house. So, and then, so I don't know about that. And then you watch NBA TV. Oh my God. I don't know why I switched over to NBA TV the other day since there's no NBA, but I did. And it's just these players with these weird grainy video filming of themselves in their houses against a wall. And it's all shaky like Blair Witch Project and stuff like that. It's just, yeah, this is the great equalizer. You're right, Greg. We've all figured this out. And they're all talking into a tunnel. Remember Tim like training us how not to talk into a tunnel 3 years ago. And nope, you got to get the foam. Nope, you got to do this. You got to do that. And we all sound like we're not in a tunnel anymore. And these dudes, they have no idea how to make that work.
Thank you,
Tim,
coronavirus.
You need to be the counselor to the stars, Tim.
No. I just, if we had the budget to do it the way we really want to, but I think we're good.
Well, we do sound better than almost all of them now.
And they do have the budgets.
And they do have budgets.
Right. That's the embarrassing part. Speaking of quarantine, though, Frank Kaminsky, man, Dave, I saw you tweet this the other day.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to put it up on Brightside today, too.
Dude, Frank Kaminsky, yeah. That was great. And then at the end when he got into the jacuzzi with his shoes on, man, just savage. But honestly, that kind of looked like a pretty damn good workout. Like, try and do that 3 times in a row.
Hey,
Frank, I can imagine.
Frank, I beg of you, put on a shirt on your Instagram. I've seen enough of you shirtless.
Look, man.
All right, please put your shirt back on.
Dude. I am comfortable in myself, and I think he looks good with the shirt off. So good for him.
I'm not saying that he
actually more on that than in the locker room. But that's another.
He's more pale than that I'd like to see, and it's how I imagine.
He's getting a tan. He's getting a tan.
It's how he looks how I imagine if somebody stretched me to 7 feet tall.
He's got the really white skin. He's one of those guys. I mean, he looks like he's from Wisconsin, although I don't think he is. He went to school there, but I don't think he's from there. I can't remember where he's from, but he looks like he's from there. So tanning is always going to be an adventure for someone like that. Don't judge. Don't judge.
Hey, he's going to get sunburned. All right.
But anyway, yes, that was pretty cool. Him doing that little homemade CrossFit challenge was fun. I liked the one I saw before that was shared by Rex Chapman, I think. It was Jeremy Roenick doing something like that, and then Frank. I don't know who went first, but I saw Frank's second, and I thought they were both good. I think Roenick's was better just because it was the first one I saw.
Fabio in the chat says Frank improved his grade after that video.
Yeah, right. His knee looks healthy. He did the ladder, whatever those things, ladder steps. He looked like his knee was healthy, and he had been talking on his podcast. He's now back. They've only done 3 in a couple of weeks, but he and his buddies are doing that podcast. And he talked about how he was only a few weeks away from being 100% cleared when this started. So he was actually kind of excited if the NBA season does continue at some point. He'd be perfectly healthy, and he thinks Kelly would be perfectly healthy too.
Well, there's going to be some other teams that are also going to have the same luck.
Be healthy, yeah.
So, really that whole equalizer thing. Kurt bringing something up that I think we all saw on Instagram or Twitter or whatever the other day. It was Isaiah Thomas posting a picture of the lineup with him, Goran, and Bledsoe, saying it would have worked in today's game. Then you saw PJ Tucker right underneath that saying it was working in that year's game as well with like an angry emoji. You guys see that? What were your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I was wondering if PJ Tucker was actually saying that to Isaiah, because it was super clear in that locker room, 100% clear in that locker room that the one, well, Goran Dragic liked it the least, but Isaiah Thomas didn't like it either because he wasn't starting. And he complained as much as he enjoyed that lineup. So today, yeah, maybe today it's more acceptable, and Isaiah would be happy about it, of course, today because he's not starting anymore because of his hip issues. He'd be okay with it. You're right. But that it was working that year, I mean, Isaiah hated it and Goran Dragic hated it. So I know PJ's right that they were pretty good. They were 28 and 21 at one point that season. So it was pretty good. It was very effective, but nobody was happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, the Point Guardians of the Galaxy, as we used to jokingly call them, actually did work. It was egos that got in the way of that group, and I actually think they probably would have been a playoff team if they had kept it together and these guys hadn't lost their freaking minds over it. PJ's right in what he was saying, and Dave, I think you're right that he was directing that angry emoji probably towards Isaiah, because everything we heard was he was the one that started the locker room fracturing, right? And if Dave could have just kept it in check,
not intentionally.
No, not intentionally.
Really, like, he didn't
just with
want
his
to break
attitude.
down the locker room. He was just pissed that he wasn't starting. He was that prove myself syndrome, and he did become an all-star after leaving the Suns. So obviously he had more to show than coming off the bench. I think he had 15 points and 4 assists a game or something like that coming off the bench. Yeah, I get it. You wanted a bigger role. Fine. But you could have accepted the role you had and made the most of it. So part of that, I don't know if PJ was actually aiming that at Isaiah, but he should have been.
Well, look, why do you sign with the team that already has 2 point guards if you're going to be upset that you're going to be the sixth man off the bench?
So was going to get himself off the team.
Well, they thought he was going to be injured. That was an injury policy.
It was covering for both because he was the restricted free agent too.
Yeah, I mean.
And then they got a lot of stone cold silence from Rich Paul at the beginning of the summer before signing Isaiah Thomas. So he was partly Bledsoe leaving replacement and partly exactly what you were saying, an injury coverage, because Bledsoe did have an injury history. And I thought it was a fine signing. I didn't think playing all three at the same time was the right thing to do back then. It would be more acceptable now. Isaiah's 100% right on this. It'd be more acceptable now for those three to play every day with everyone not freaking out. That's
like OKC,
true.
Man. OKC will like roll out like four point guards.
That's exactly what got them so good this year, is playing all those guys at once. And so the Suns would be fine with it now, and probably Goran would accept it more. And Isaiah might accept it more. Absolutely, he's right on that. But back then, that was a tough thing to make work. And Jeff Hornacek tried before he lost the locker room.
Well, look, I think, too, and I'm pretty sure Ryan McDonough would admit this, that this was one of those moves that was made more based on the analytics than thinking about the actual human side of the entire thing. The analytics said that this would work, you know?
I mean, that's Ryan McDonough's MO. That was his entire MO the entire time he was a GM. I mean, I love Ryan McDonough, but his entire fault line was really always looking at the analytical side of basketball and never really understanding the human side of it.
Well, I remember sitting in that summer, we had a all-employee summit off-site from the arena, and we wound up actually having the analytics team do a presentation on these three guards and how they were showing the numbers, and it was one of a few times we got a peek behind the curtain of the thought process, and they were showing how these three guards would make sense and how they actually thought analytically that Isaiah might be the best of the three based on it, and they thought they got such a great value signing, and they did. I mean, the price point that they paid for Isaiah Thomas, when you consider what he went on to do on that contract for Boston after the trade, I mean, they got a hell of a deal. I think it was $26 million over 4 years, I believe it was. Don't quote me on that, but something like that. I mean, it was a ridiculously low deal that they wound up getting him on, and Yeah, but when you put all that together and you don't think about that, and then Hornacek tried his best, but he never was the guy that seemed to have a complete command of a locker room, right?
I loved Jeff Hornacek, but you're right. He never really had the command of the young guys in the locker room. They created a faction that tolerated him, liked him, but didn't respect him and didn't do what he said. I feel like, and this is just me projecting because we obviously don't know, but I feel like Monty Williams would have more success integrating those three, even back then, than Jeff Hornacek did.
Yeah, I think so. Jeff was a really good coach, but yeah, it was always a weird feeling. And honestly, I think the Morai had more to do with that than any of the point guards in terms of undermining Hornacek's authority and kind of just getting disengaged from him.
Yes.
Yeah, like
well, throwing towels at him.
Well, yeah. I mean,
God.
I mean, by the end, it was very
self-destruction.
Obvious, early
look
on.
up the timeline of self-destruction in the Morris Brothers. Google it, and you'll see our posts on Brightside. There's just crazy how many things they did to undermine the team, even in a public way. And we weren't aware of everything. We were only aware of some of the things that happened.
They did all that, and it just took Eric Bledsoe to send one innocuous tweet that nobody knew, if it was definitely about that or not, to get kicked off the team. So freaking bizarre.
Let's. The bottom line on all this, though, is it wasn't any of those guys' fault because the GM put them all together. It's really the GM's fault.
Yeah, I mean that's
no.
True.
The more I Kurt Bermejo. The more I was nice until the other brother got traded. That's only when casual fans, and I'm not calling you a casual fan, man. You're probably not. That's when you noticed, but no. When those two were together that last year, look up timeline of self-destruction. Those guys as a team were destroying the Suns together on that team, and that's why a Morris brother got traded, because they couldn't control the Morai.
Well, and look, even before Marcus got here, Markieff was not the nicest guy in the world. I'm just going to tell you that.
But he was at least he was a little respectful, like he wasn't openly defying. And then as soon as Marcus got here, then it was open defiance.
Yeah, but the irony is that was, I'm trying to remember when, that was before McDonough, wasn't it? Wasn't that a Lance Blanks Lon Babby move when they got Marcus?
Yeah, it was a Blanks and Babby, and actually Babby was pretty proud of it, but he was he was hoping that
are you sure?
The coaching staff. It was a Babby.
I remember when they signed when they signed Marcus. I have this real clear memory of Ryan McDonough sitting there at the podium.
They traded for Marcus because I remember I was on the road with the team when they got him, and I'm pretty sure
it was McDonough who gave them the extensions.
That's
like
what
they
I'm
gave
thinking.
them the combo contract, and they were both happy. It was man, that was so wild. That was when they started not having press conferences when things happened, and they waited until the last second to do stuff. So that same media day morning, before media day started, which was the end of September, they had the Morai do their little, "Hey, we're awesome." Wasn't that the same day? I think it was. And then they had Eric Bledsoe come in because he had just signed his extension, and so everybody was happy on media day because they just got money.
Yeah, so it was February 20th, 2013, which would have still been under Lance Blanks because, I was in L.A. with
Marcus
the team
was
when they
acquired.
made it. Yeah, when he was acquired from Houston.
But the extensions happened after that 2013-14 Cinderella season, and then that's I think what you're remembering, Tim, is the smiling.
Yeah.
And that was McDonough. But Babby was mostly the guy on the Morai. He totally believed in the Morai, and he's right. I mean, they're still good players in the NBA. Yeah. He was right as far as talent and ability to play in today's game because they both really fit the modern game too, to an extent.
Well, Marcus was straight up coveted this season by contending teams.
He was right. and he was going to be a good player for the Clippers in the playoffs. Absolutely.
Look, I love Lon Babby, but in part his whole giving them one contract that they could divvy up the money thing was part of why this thing went so south when they traded Marcus too, because it gave them the feeling of we're a package deal, nothing's going to happen to one of us without the other. And then when you trade one, it makes a situation more complicated than it needs to be as well. And I love Lon, but I think that added to the whole thing. We got off on a really weird tangent here.
Yeah, we did. We kind of went down a rabbit hole. So back to this started with, did we see Isaiah Thomas's post this week? Yes, we did. And you're right, it would work. It would work in today's NBA, absolutely. And I actually, just for grins, would love to see it just happen again, even though Isaiah Thomas is a little hobbled and Goran Dragic is going to have a cane pretty soon. I'd still love to see those three play together. Doesn't have to be in Phoenix because we don't have any of those dudes left. But it would be fun to watch it.
I certainly don't want to see those three play together at this point in their careers. I
not on the Suns.
I kind of also don't want to watch Isaiah Thomas play basketball anymore either. I mean, it's a shame that hip injury just, not the same. Goran Dragic, love watching him play, but I don't enjoy watching Bledsoe. I never really enjoyed watching Bledsoe. I'm still not a fan of his game. So I disagree, Dave.
So let's bring this back. Let's just bring this back to right now. I prefer watching Ricky Rubio, broken shot and all, to any of these dudes.
Yes. Well, no. I prefer Goran over Ricky.
But the younger Goran.
Yes.
Even today's Goran, I still love watching. But the today's Ricky is more effective over a full season than today's Goran.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, 100%. It's not even close, really.
Nope.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, someone in the chat still remember Keith dropping 35 on LeBron. Yes, and then refusing to be interviewed afterwards. Just walking out of the locker room, pushing his way through Julie Phi to get out of the locker room, even though she's trying to stop him, saying, "That was your best game of your career. You should talk to these guys."
He is a jerk, all right? That's the nicest way to put it. I remember a time I'm coming out of the tunnel. I may have told this story because I think I've told every story I have on this show over the last 3 years, but I was walking through the tunnel before a game and carrying a bunch of equipment, and Markeith, on purpose, saw me coming around the corner and dropped his shoulder into me, like literally knocked me over and started laughing
Jesus.
and walked on the court. I'm like, what is this,
ass.
high school? Like, the audio video guy's walking by. Let's knock him over,
Yeah. No, there's such fake toughness from them.
What, are you saying I couldn't take Markeith Morris?
No, I said it was fake toughness from Markeith. You could have took him. Sure.
You know what,
bite
Greg?
him on the shins.
I love you as a human being, but I would not bet a mortgage payment on you winning that battle.
I would look like Jeff Van Gundy holding on to, I think, what was it, Patrick Ewing's leg? Or no, Alonzo Mourning's leg in that 90s
so
brawl.
Funny.
That
was
me.
My first thought, too.
Yeah, that would be me.
Especially with you describing being on the ground after being pushed over.
It would have looked exactly like that.
So we're finishing up this series that we've dragged out probably as long as it was possible.
Wait. One more comment. If you do it right, though, the Jeff Van Gundy, it's oh my God, I just forgot it.
This was well worth the wait.
Larry Fitzgerald has made it popular to just dive at someone's ankles. Who is it? It's
he does it to all sorts of people.
Sports. He does it to
Ron Wolfley. He does it.
Wolfley, yes. And if you grab both ankles, you can topple them over. So Greg, when you're down there doing the Van Gundy, just grab both ankles and you can knock him right over.
Yeah, and I probably would have gotten jumped in the parking garage after if I had pulled that off.
Well, I can't speak to parking garages afterwards when the lights are off, but definitely there it would have been good. And then, we just said rest in peace.
All right. And so on that note, we have been doing this series. I think we're on our 4th week at this point. maybe the 5th week, not really 100% sure, where we have been grading
time is a flat circle. Yeah.
the players. We've gone down by position. Just want to give you watching right now on YouTube or listening on the podcast a bit of a refresher. The worst rated players that we had so far for the season was Elliot Kobo, Dave giving him an F, Greg giving him an F, and myself giving him a C-, as well as Tyler Johnson, who I guess technically would be the worst rated, with Dave giving him a D-, Greg giving him an F, and myself giving him an F. And the highest rated player that we had for this team, Frank Kaminsky.
Again, let's remind ourselves that this is compared to expectations. This is not that we think Frank is the best player on the team.
Dave gave him an A.
He just exceeded expectations more than anyone.
Greg gave him an A, and I gave him a B. So what's going to be difficult with this? So let me kind of refresh on the grading scale. Was this, again, to Dave's point, is all based off of expectations. What did we expect them to do this season? So an A was nearly perfect and far exceeded our expectations for them as a player. That's why I gave Devin Booker, I think a C+ or a B-, something around there, because my expectations were so high for him. A B was good, exceeded expectations. A C is fine. They did exactly what you thought they were going to do. Nothing wrong with that. They lived up to expectations. D would be a disappointing season, worse than expected. F would be get this mofo off the team. So on this episode, we are going to grade Monty Williams, Robert Sarver, and James Jones. So get this mofo off the team would mean very different things, really, for these type of individuals. But regardless, we're going to say they no longer should be involved either in ownership or management if we give them the F. Now, that being said, I do want to start with Monty Williams. And so I'll kind of sum a couple of thoughts I had up here, and then let you guys give your grades on them, okay? Mm-hmm. He turned the Suns into the team that is number 1 in assists per games this season. A huge improvement on rebounding. They went from like 30th to like 22nd. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it's actually a pretty damn big deal. And I think that part of that can also go
actually
over
17th in rebound percentage.
There you go. Part of that can go over to James Jones, though, and Robert Sarver for putting the team together. Negatives: Monty Williams out of timeout play calls, I thought were some of the worst in the NBA. I don't know if that was because of him or because of the talent on the floor, but they could never get a bucket off of a timeout, and it was absolutely infuriating. He had these stubborn-ass rotations at the end of the first and the third quarters, and he played Elliot Kobo way, 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 way too much.
That is funny. Yeah, you could say that A F. I don't know what that Elliot Kobo love was. He was struggling with himself on some of the players. Okay, so Monty went into this year going, look, this is an experimental year. We're going to try things. We're going to see what works. We're going to put in a system we think will work, and then we're going to see which players succeed. And he, the entire year, wanted to try guys regardless of record. And we were all just so sick of and letting them grow and develop and struggle sometimes so that they could get better, because you got to get it on film before you can show a guy what he's doing wrong. But man, his love of Elliot Kobo was just unfathomable for so long this past year. So it's just crazy how much he played Ellie. But going back to, I love that he came up with a scheme that worked, and he and his coaching staff. Let's Monty. I think he's the extension of his entire coaching staff and player development staff. So we'll give them collectively this grade. Are we going to grade the training staff? But that's a sidebar. So the coaching staff and Monty with the head of it, it was incredible. Tim, you listed all the superlatives out, all the things that mattered. The bottom line is they were 19th in net rating for the year. Net rating being, the net points per 100 possessions. So basically flattening out the game for the fast and slow teams, flattening it all out. The Suns were 19th. That's the best they've been in a long time. I know people are like, woohoo, yeah, great. But that is great because they're going in the right direction. He did it with not much better talent on the roster than the prior teams had. He just used them better, and he got the most out of Devin Booker. He didn't even have to make Devin Booker less of a player. He didn't have to make DeAndre Ayton less of a focal point, who had been 2 focal points on a 30th ranked everything last year. He just made everything else work around it, and I think that's so good. Yeah, his out of timeouts were hit and miss, mostly miss. His attempts to win games in the final possession at the end of games was infuriating. Like, why not send it to overtime sometimes instead of going for that hero 3? He put Devin Booker in positions to fail on final shots. But I guess, most hero shots do look like fails if you miss them. Some guys make them, some guys don't. Some years you make them, some years you don't. So, but he put these guys in position to be really good this year. They could have been a lot better than they actually were. They just lost those one possession games. I really think Monty Williams deserves a huge amount of credit for this season, and his coaching staff as an extension. So I'm going to go all the way. I'm going to give Monty Williams. Oh, but I thought he'd be pretty good. So related to expectations, not nearly perfect. I have to settle on a B. I'm going to settle on a B.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what Monty Williams was able to do, and you mentioned Devin Booker, he built a system and got Devin Booker to buy into that offensive system, and it didn't actually cost Devin points or assists. It was a way to actually make him more efficient. And when you ask a star to take a less active role sometimes or to play within the confines of something, it takes a lot to get them to have buy-in. I mean, we talked about those early or mid 2010 teams that just never had the buy-in with Jeff Hornacek. Opposite here, complete buy-in from Devin Booker, which set the tone for everybody else to buy in to this offense. And that speaks volumes to Monty's leadership. You look at, and I know that the suspension made this more difficult, but what he was able to do with the growth of DeAndre Ayton. We started to see him blossom in January, February, before we wound up in this hiatus, that he started to really seem to get more about the game, and I think that has everything to do with Monty Williams and his coaching
Ayton
staff.
To enjoy defense.
Yeah, I mean, and
not that he didn't enjoy the idea of defense. Ayton actually is more coachable than he appears, but Monty gave him something to succeed with, and he did very good.
I think he gave him a leader figure that Ayton was yearning for in year one. This is the first time in a while that it felt like there was an adult in the room that had control over what was going on and had a say that everybody respected. So huge props to that from Monty.
And the players gave Monty credit all season too. Speaking of that adult in the room, prior coaches, the players did not ever really mention.
That was the opposite. If they mentioned it was negative.
Right. So they almost never mention because you don't want to say negative things about your coach during the season. These guys they're tripping on themselves talking about how great Monty Williams is.
Yeah, I mean, another guy. You got the most out of Kelly Oubre, even Frank Kaminsky. He got a lot out of. So in that, he exceeded. I had high expectations for what he was going to be able to do, but honestly, he exceeded those in that way for me. Rotations were infuriating at times. We've talked about the Okobo thing. I don't think I need to bang that drum anymore. It's pretty clear. So that was a disappointment. I thought we would have more out of Monty there. The out-of-timeout calls, I tried not to read too much into.
Dude, they were so bad. They were so bad. I mean, I'm not kidding. They were the worst in the NBA.
Look, though,
and it's and I think he did an excellent job. I'm going to give him a B. But if there's one thing that dude needs to improve on, they never scored out of those, and that was like the entire point of those. It was bad.
But look, that is part execution though too. Right?
Yes.
The coach can only draw up something in a timeout, and if the guys don't go out there and execute it, it's a 50-50 proposition, right? It's half on Monty, it's half on the team, and I'm guessing Monty wasn't sitting there drawing up something that on the board he goes, and this is going to result in a turnover. Go out there, guys, let's do this. You know,
it was. I actually thought Jeff Hornacek's out of timeout play calls were better.
Yeah, he was exceptional in that situation, but so that one I kind of give as a wash, but. Overall, I think he's a B. I mean, I really think.
Let's see what these guys are saying in the chat here.
I'm gonna go with a B minus. Dave, you do. So hold on. Dave gave a B. Greg gave a B. I gave a B minus. I had really high expectations of Monty though. And so Dave, you do the listener chat.
Okay, so let's see. We got Kurt giving Monty a B. Let's see. I'm trying to find another one. Hamboy plays, giving Monty a B plus.
Old man reads comments on internet. Yeah, fun segment
Jeremy
on the
Berger show with a B for sure. So yeah,
Adam with a B. I don't know if you said Adam already.
No, I missed it. Adam with a B. Yes, Adam Bunting with a B. So looks like we got a B for Monty pretty much across the board.
All right, so let's move on to Robert Sarver. This is going to sum up some of these things, let you guys go. We'll start with Greg after that. Letting Aaron Nelson go. And we saw what happened with the team this year.
Wait, who are we doing right now?
We're doing Robert Sarver. Yep. Seemingly keeping away from the team in a way that I, from the outside looking in, have not seen in a very long time. And also he did some really cool charitable things that we aren't going to mention on air, but I do think speaks volumes for him as an individual and as a person. Greg.
Look, I don't blame the training staff on him. That's usually a GM decision and a president or vice president of basketball operations, whatever James Jones' official title is. That's on James, so that'll factor into his grade for me. Right. You guys can have different opinions. That's just kind of the way I feel about it, and I'm going to shock a lot of people here. I'm going to give Robert Sarver an A. He stayed away from the team. He spent the money in the years to get Monty Williams. He seems to have committed to James Jones and what his plan is. That he paid for, or he is paying for a new practice facility, and he managed to find a way, even against a city council that a majority seemed not to want to actually go through and fund this thing, to get the arena redone. This is the best offseason we've seen from Robert Sarver and best season we've seen from Robert Sarver, because he stayed away from the team stuff and got the business stuff done in a way that was necessary. And then in a time of need, he stepped up and he paid for those game night workers that were going to miss time. So, I mean, this could change. There could be things that come up over the next few months that change an opinion. But right now, I think it's an A. I think he did everything. I mean, granted, like we talked, expectations were probably low in this case, but he came through and he did the things that this team needs to build a foundation for success moving forward. That doesn't mean there won't be things in the future that impede this progress, but for me, it's an A right now.
Man, you guys are being nice.
I got a B plus, man. I was pretty impressed with Sarver.
You're gonna give him a B plus? Okay, so Greg's got the A, you got the B plus. Man, I'm struggling with this one because I think he made got helped into making some good decisions. Putting James Jones in charge, although he did once again what he always does is he puts somebody in charge that's never done it before, so they'll take less money and want this as a prove it thing, and that he feels like he can puppet.
And he also, and I feel like an idiot right now. I'm trying to think, who else did he bring in? Somebody not media facing.
Yeah, Jeff Bauer.
Pistons. Yeah, Bauer. Yep.
Yeah, Jeff Bauer. I think that was some of that came from people who were advising him, and Jeff Bauer hasn't really ended up. I don't know. I've never even seen him. And then so Sarver did some good thing. He allowed James Jones to hire Monty Williams, although he needed 10 years of failed coaches to be able to get to this point where he finally, fine, I'll do a real coach. I don't know. I mean, I've got to give him maybe a C+. I can't go higher than a C+. I think we're on the edge of him pushing the team into something else bad. And I want to see this continue for more than, if I was doing a performance evaluation, I would still say you're just about a meets expectations, but you're real close to falling back if you don't keep this up. So I have a hard time giving him anything better than a C+. So that's where I'm laying.
Dave, let me ask you a question. You're a leader in your day job, right? And
nursing home leader.
See, he runs a nursing home for the government. No, but you talk about how you discredit Sarver for allowing hiring people or listening to other people, and that influences decisions. But isn't that a sign of good leadership?
Oh, no. I didn't mean to imply that. Thank you for that clarification. No, you absolutely need to take advice from other people and come with the best collective decision. Absolutely. I'm just saying that he didn't come up with it himself. I don't trust that he's going to keep listening to other people, I guess is what I really
That's fair.
meant. He's not ready to fly on his own and making his own decisions. That's what I really meant. It's absolutely imperative to take advice from other people, and he should have been doing it more in his past 10 years.
Liz in the chat brings up a good point, too. He did bring Larry Fitzgerald into the ownership group as well, so that's at least a fan-facing thing.
Connections with players, because the players all love him individually.
Well, not all.
Doesn't Devin Booker like hang out at his house?
Yeah, Booker hangs out at his house a lot.
I can tell you that feeling is not true for one Marcin Gortat, but others very much may like him.
All in all, I think.
Oh, you know what, Liz? You are absolutely right. Expectations were so low, and this is about exceeding expectations. You know what? I totally fucked up. This is about expectations, not performance, because that's why we all gave Frank the best grade on the team. He did exceed expectations this year as an owner.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm, you know what? Thank you, Liz, for reminding me. Yeah. Then I kind of have to jump into the B range. Dang it.
Thank you,
minus
Liz.
What? Where are you going with?
B. I'm just going to go B. You're right. He exceeded expectation. He wasn't perfect. The Suns didn't actually make any big splashes. They made a lot of low radar splashes that didn't cost him a lot of money. I'm not as big a fan of the overall arena deal and practice court as you might think, because they jacked up ticket prices for next year. We haven't even talked about that. They jumped up ticket prices from 10 to 60% on people for season tickets to pay for the arena that's already being paid for by the public.
Right? Well, they're I don't know. You're always going to, when there's new amenities and things that are better, it's a business thing. Like every team does this. When the Clippers move to their new arena in Inglewood, they're going to jack up prices. Like this is a factor of the business, not a factor of Robert Sarver.
Team. Maybe make the playoffs first. So
I get that.
I'll jump to the B, because he exceeded expectations this year as an owner. The bar was so low. So thank you, Liz, for straightening me out.
It's all about where the expectations were. So James Jones, you're going to sum up a couple of thoughts. Getting rid of TJ Warren for absolutely nothing, and that's the important part of that statement. To Greg's point, letting Aaron Nelson go, getting rid of Melton but keeping Kobo. Rashawn Holmes walking when they could have got him on a team-friendly deal. Great that they brought Aaron Baines in. And the Cam Johnson pick, the draft day, really just draft day. And I like Cam Johnson. I think he's going to be really good, and I'm excited he's on the team. But the way that the entire draft day went down, I think all of that needs to be considered.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and you were giving us the the potential negatives among all the positives. So the positives being that he brought in collectively, he focused on young prime veterans who, with playoff experience, they know how to play competitive basketball. He even brought in the college players he brought in are the ones who know how to play competitive basketball because they did it for years in college. So he had a model that he was going to apply for this year. We don't know if that model is going to be the same every single year, although he made his entire career out of that. Basically, he acquired 8 guys just like him who play different positions and have different skills, but play like him in terms of they're going to make the most out of every minute they're on the court, and they don't expect to be on the court every minute. He made some good decisions, very good decisions within that scope of the kind of players he was trying to acquire. He was setting a foundation that allowed DA and Book to excel and to show whether they can be the foundation of a winning team. And I think what we saw this past season is that DA and Book can be the corner pieces of a winning team with the right players around them. They showed it, and he proved the theory, because we were going to find out this year one way or the other. We're going to find out if you get more competitive players around him and a good scheme and all that, can Devin Booker contribute to winning? Can DeAndre Ayton contribute to winning? And we know it now that they definitely can. Are they going to be the 2 best players on a championship team? We still don't know that, but we do know they can be the best players on a good team. And that is exactly what James Jones was trying to prove this year. So I think he did all that very, very well. Where I would, and as far as exceeding expectations, I had an expectation for him to do well. I thought he was going to do these kinds of things because he talked about it the whole prior year. I would kill him if he didn't end up doing these. I would kill his grade if he didn't end up doing the things he said he was going to do. So but he didn't acquire another star. He didn't suddenly turn him into a playoff team. And he did stick with his guns. Even at the trading deadline, he didn't try to acquire somebody. And they needed someone.
Well,
they needed someone.
No, you can say that he didn't acquire somebody, but I don't think that you can 100% say he didn't try to.
True, they didn't try to. I mean, they did try to, but he didn't make it happen, and he needed to because they were within shooting distance of a playoff spot within a week or two of that trade deadline, and he could have done something.
Right.
And he didn't do something. He didn't get it done. He wasn't willing to change that plan for the year. And while, you know what, Ryan McDonough did that. He pivoted when things they exceeded expectations, and he failed badly. So it's possible that he avoided disaster by James Jones avoided disaster by not making big moves. I get it, but I can't give him a nearly perfect. So I'm going to go with a B on this season for James Jones. I am very happy with him in the position he's in. I want to see him continue it, and if he does, he'll continue to exceed expectations. So I really think he's got a B.
Yeah, I think there's a mixed bag here. Obviously, we talked about training staff. We've hammered that over this year. That was obviously a fail. Draft night, I think you can argue was a wash, right? TJ Warren was one of those locker room guys that quietly just kind of undermined culture. I hate to be negative. TJ was always very nice to me, but it just kind of his demeanor, it just seemed to undermine culture. So with James Jones obviously promising to change the culture, and I think delivering on that, the TJ Warren thing was a step in that. Could he have gotten more? Probably, but we brought our fan favorite cash considerations back in, so I'm okay with that. It lets that joke live on. So I'll give him a wash. And then if you really look at that trade with the Timberwolves on draft night, you get Cam Johnson, you get Dario Saric, and okay, Dario had moments, but the effort and what he was trying to accomplish there was giving you a starting caliber power forward on a roster that was completely devoid of that the previous year. I look at that and I go, okay. The thought process was right there. And at times it seemed like it might work, but it didn't quite. And Cam, I think we all see the potential. The injury is the scary thing. And the other thing on draft night was the acquiring of Baines, which they don't have that fast start, and they don't stay above water during DeAndre Ayton's suspension without Aaron Baines. So,
or they could have just kept Rashawn Holmes.
I'm not a Rashawn Holmes guy.
I'm not as big a Rashawn Holmes guy either. I don't. Rashawn Holmes actually did not do anything to help DeAndre Ayton get better. Aaron Baines worked every single day to help DeAndre Ayton get better. I actually, for the role that they needed, I really think that Aaron Baines was much, much better than Rashawn Holmes. Would have been for DA this year. And DA is really the future. Rashawn Holmes wanted himself to be the future, and he's getting it now. I'm happy for him in Sacramento. But he's not going to make somebody around him better because he's trying to make himself better. How James Jones got there this past summer on putting that roster together is fodder for all kinds of discussion. He got there in a weird way that people don't get there, but he still ended up with a much better team for the same money that was being spent the year before for a much worse team.
I just Rashawn wasn't high on my list, and I think Aaron Baines provided more than you would have, more of what they needed while DeAndre was out than you would have gotten with Rashawn Holmes. So I think draft night is, as much as I panned it at the time, is probably a push. But to Dave's point, he came in and did everything he promised he was going to do. He changed the culture. There's no doubt in that. He brought in a coach that was legit in Monty Williams, that we just went through every reason why he was. And he said this was going to be a stepping stone year where it was learning what you had and being competitive, but maybe not being a playoff team. They definitely checked that box, and they surprised. I think they exceeded that in a lot of ways. So overall, I'm going to land at a B. I think he did what he said he was going to do. It's better than where we've been, and there's room for growth. And I don't think there's anything wrong with a B in this situation as James Jones adapts to the job.
Let me use really quick Frank Kaminsky as an example of how to grade Jones. Frank Kaminsky on his Pros and Joes podcast, the first episode this year, he talked about the experience of joining the Suns, and he is so excited about being on the Suns. He thinks the culture is great. He thinks they're doing the right things. They talked to him the right way about joining the team. They made him feel like he was a part of the team. He doesn't think he needs to start all the time. He doesn't think he needs to be the greatest player on the team. He just wants to be a part of this. And when was the last time we heard that from a Suns player, that they want to be a part of what's here with these people right now? It's been a while, and I think that you have to give Jones credit for getting the right guys in the locker room for this. Frank is a good guy to have in the locker room and on the court and in a supporting role. And then he just stepped right up as soon as when DeAndre Ayton went down and everybody was getting hurt. Frank stepped up and was being fairly effective, and so was Dario. And I think that's because we had the right guys on the team. And they didn't. The season didn't completely derail. Frank he's like, I don't think we had the whole team for one game this year. It sure would be nice to have a fully healthy Suns team this season. I know all the teams have injuries. I get it, but these guys know that they can be good if they could just be healthy. And I think that was a huge plus. And so that contributes to the B grade for Jones. What do you think, Tim? What's your call?
I give him a B plus, and that is because I had really low expectations of what he would do on draft night, and he lived up to those. So I can't knock him for that. I didn't think he was going to do better, and then he did worse. It was exactly what I thought was going to happen, and that happened. So no, I give him B plus. I thought to all the points that you guys made, changing the culture, bringing in Ricky Rubio, and you know my thoughts on Ricky Rubio, bringing in Monty Williams, and for a long time, for taking those swings on those quality power forwards, whatever you might think of Frank Kaminsky, but Dario Saric was filling a position of need, and he got him on a deal that was, look, if it works out this year, great. If it doesn't, then we'll just try again for something else next year. But it was a stopgap that was worth the experiment 100%. At the end of the day, I think we learned that Mikal Bridges might actually be the starting power forward of the future, although that's a debate for another episode, and we have a long time to do so. So, summing it up, James Jones. Dave gave a B. Greg gave a B. I gave a B plus. Robert Sarver. Dave gave a B. I gave an A. Greg gave an A, and I gave a B plus. And Monty Williams. Dave gave a B. Greg gave a B, and I gave a B minus.
So Robert Sarver winds up with the highest grade out of all of them. He's the Frank Kaminsky of the front office.
All Robert Sarver really had to do is just stay out of the way.
Hey, he did it. So, hey, by the way, Liz in the chat totally gets it. She says, I give Jones a B, exceeded expectations. In fact, maybe a miracle maker, perhaps, but I didn't like giving away TJ and letting Nelson go. So thank you, Liz, for weighing it.
Yeah, we got Steve Haller giving him a C. We had somebody in there. Let's see, Adam Bunting gave him a D. Ooh, that's all right. Get real here. Jeremy, I thought you gave him an A, but that was just the first letter of a sentence. Never mind.
How do you give him a D when you look at where the team was before?
I don't know. Some people look.
Everyone has the right to their own opinion.
Look,
and I want to know why they have that opinion.
3.5 months ago, I would have 3.5 months ago, I would have given him a D. You know,
let's see. Some criminally bad calls. Cam is the only reason it's not an F.
See, that's
So you don't like Aaron? You don't like Aaron Baines or Frank or Dario
or
Ricky? I mean, that's Cam's the only thing that gets it from an F.
Or Monty Williams, yeah.
Explain yourself, Adam Bunting.
Greg, we are coming out, or actually we're a little bit over an hour. Do we have a Donkey Award this week?
We don't. We're going to take a little time off. I feel like in these current times, I feel like we need a little less negativity like that and a little more positivity. So maybe I'll come up with something else that we can fill the void. But don't you guys get too comfortable with negative stuff because it's coming back once we all feel a little bit better in this world.
Wednesday episode. Are you guys going to do one this week?
And if Dave doesn't want to get drunk with his daughters, then yes, we'll do one.
I'd love to do another one this week. We have people offering to join us for our solar party. We might bring Rhett back. We might bring on the Suns Report guys. We might bring on Timeline guys. We just got to figure it out.
I think Rhett's still sitting on the Skype call just waiting for us. I felt like he was just yearning to talk to anybody that had similar interests.
That was so fun.
My favorite part was the mic. Was Greg's mic not working for like the first 3 minutes of the episode?
Jesus Christ.
So you want to know why? Okay. I told you guys, a peek behind the curtain for everybody watching. I actually, in my day job, have been running a lot of live webinars, live web streams since all this happened, and I use the same program we used for the show. Well, I'm muted in that because I'm just the producer. I'm not on camera. I'm just talking in the ear of whoever's on the Skype call. So I just forgot to unmute the damn thing because of work settings. But I haven't screwed up and put us on my work channel yet, so that's a win.
That's the one that matters
because I wouldn't have a job anymore.
Espo, so we didn't even know he was muted.
Yeah.
I could hear him just fine.
Because in the Skype call I wasn't muted. In the program we used to stream I was. Yeah. So
none of us caught on until somebody commented that we can't hear anything that Greg's saying.
Yeah. By the way, Steve Haller in the chat asked me to give an honorary Donkey Award to Cody James Hunt for tweeting that they should trade Cam Johnson. So so honorary from the chat Donkey Award today, but we need more positivity in this world right
now. Before we get out of here, you guys, let's go round robin. Dave, what have you been doing the last week that is interesting?
What have I been doing? Well, I'm
listening to. What have you been thinking about? What's going on?
Yeah, I've actually been getting more involved in doing video calls. I've never done, other than with you guys on this. I don't do phone calls. I don't do video calls. I usually like to see people, and then I only text them in between when I can't see them, and that's a whole different world for me. So my world is kind of upside down. It's totally different than it was before working. Now I'm working from home, hardly ever leaving this place. It's very, very different. So as far as I'm still in the doldrums of, look, I'm just going to binge Netflix. So I'm not doing anything really cool and interesting, actually, other than staying really much better in touch with my family. That's about it.
I have been listening to my entire vinyl collection because my record player is in my home office. I usually don't get a lot of time to do it, and now instead of listening to Spotify at work, I'm popping on the headphones and roaming through all the vinyl that I have. But I actually think I've come to the end of about the 55 records I have in my collection, and I either have to start over or start buying stuff on Amazon. And then the other thing, I'm watching Barry on HBO. I had not been watching it. Fantastic.
Yeah,
fantastic.
That's a great show.
So
yeah, I've been doing. With all the little streaming apps. Little Fires Everywhere, Ozark season 3. Lots of different series like that, and so I've just been Tiger King. We talked about that last time with Rhett on the show. So there's all those kind of things. That's mainly what I've been doing at nights and weekends.
And then
getting outside and going for long solo walks. Also,
I'm still trying to figure out how we can watch an old game together and stream it on YouTube. If anybody has any ideas, feel free to tweet us at Espo or at Sun Solar Panel, so we can figure that out as well.
It'd be great to watch you and Bloomer actually call an old game.
I think Bloomer would do it if I can figure out the technological side, so we all can watch it together and show the audience. We'll make it happen. We got nothing but time, So
Tim, it's your turn. What have you been doing that's interesting this past week?
I've been watching a lot of live performances by bands, and I think that one of the really great things right now that's been happening is all these bands that it's been really tragic that they haven't been able to tour. A lot of these guys, because I worked in the concert industry for so long, are friends of mine, and their incomes have been completely cut off. But that being said, I think that a lot of bands have found a way to connect with fans all over the internet and getting more comfortable in putting these live performances together. So Authority Zero, for example, Jason DeVore, he's been doing a bunch, but they actually went to, I'm trying to remember the name of the little club in Phoenix, and they did an entire acoustic concert last night, and I ended up buying a shirt from them. Brian Fallon put together a hour-long show during my lunch break the other day. The Supervillains have been doing live shows on Facebook. I've been watching some other smaller artists as well do some live shows. So I've been tuning into a lot of that. I picked up the Lucky Boys Confusion, put out a limited release of their 1999 album Growing Out of It with only 500 copies. And I'm super thankful that I was able to get a copy of that. And then my most exciting project is a quarantine playlist that I've put together that I'm updating every Sunday, and through the week I work on it, and I get the songs in a certain order. So really, I've just been giving all of my money to musicians and really enjoying connecting with music in a way that I haven't really had a chance to do so in a long time.
Is Don't Stand Too Close to Me on that list of
No, but this Sunday, and I will put a link on the podcast feed as well as the YouTube. But this Sunday, it's starting out with Quiet Holler's Monte Blanc, and if anybody knows that song, I think it's just a super great quarantine song to start it off. But no, it's been really nice. There was REM's 40th anniversary was this week, and an REM fan put together a show of him playing the guitar and everything and doing all the songs, like a 10-song show in his living room. And it's been really, really cool to see. The National, something that, Greg and I are huge National fans. They've been doing these rebroadcasts every Monday on YouTube, and 100% of the donations are going to their touring staff, their merch guys, their stage hands, and that's been super awesome to see as well.
Yeah. Well, as REM says, it's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine, but I may also be spreading the virus. So,
but I also maybe yeah, they'll have to update the song. That's right.
Seriously. And so on that note, these guys will be back again on Wednesday. I'll see you all next Saturday, and we appreciate you guys giving an hour plus of your time to the Sun Solar Panel.
Goodbye.